Have a seat, please.
Thank you.
So, let me just say this, Mark. It's, which you couldn't tell just now, obviously. It's surreal to be up here on stage with you. We're not going to have time to get through, obviously, all the things that you've done thus far in your career. But just to humor me, just so you guys have an idea, and mind you, this is just a tip of the iceberg of what he's done thus far. I felt the best way to go about it is just to briefly go through some anniversaries, if you will entertain me. I know. So, yes, anniversary. So,
I can't even remember my own with my wife.
I know. So here we go, guys. So 5 years since the end of Hawaii 5-0. We have last year was the 5-year anniversary of Wu Assassins. Last year was also the 5-year anniversary of John Wick Chapter 3. Next year, Brotherhood of the Wolf will hit 25 years. Let's see, last year was the 25th anniversary for the end of The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. Next year, the Island of Dr. Monroe, I bet you didn't think I was going to get into that, will be 30. Let's see, Crying Freeman, of course, the project in which, you met your wife, yes, is 30 this year. And then lastly, of course, Double Dragon turned 30 last year. So, like I said, tip of the iceberg. Crazy. Yes, please.
Only because I talked about this with my capoeira teacher. Only the strong.
Yes.
3 years ago.
Like I said, tip of the iceberg. So with that in mind, thinking of journeying back, if you will, born in Hawaii, of course, I know that you did a lot of traveling in that time, in those early years, whether we're talking about Miami, or not Miami, I'm sorry, Hawaii, Denver, and then, Germany. So what brought about all of that travel in those early years?
Thank you. And if I don't use a mic, are you guys okay? Can everybody hear if I don't use a mic?
Do we have a mic? We should have another mic. We should have another one, but go ahead. Yes.
But I have one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, I get too crazy with this and I'm doing this stuff. I get very
No problem.
animated
No problem.
And the mic's here and you can't. So if I know I don't have it in my hand, I just project. Is that good? Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
So yeah, a lot of countries. 43 countries I've been to. 43 countries, and I'm 61 years old. 43.
Don't look it. Don't look it.
I appreciate it.
At all.
Thank you. Born in Hawaii, went to Colorado, then to Hamburg, Germany when I was 11, almost 12. At 17, I thought I'd be a monk because I saw Jet Li and all those kung fu movies. And I just thought, I love martial arts. I love people and energy, and I thought, that's a good life. Practice martial arts and teach and learn about spirituality and wisdom and all these things. And then 2 things happened. One, I realized I like girls. Who knew? 3 kids later and a Texas wife. And then the other thing was I just felt like, I don't know, I needed to live life before I talk about it and teach it. So that was the one thing for me, just life-wise. Be a monk, and I have the utmost respect for the monks and people that do those things, but I just thought, I actually want to experience these hardships, and I have, before I try passing on my ideas of how to better live with them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I know you have an interesting story about that, if you don't mind sharing, about that period in which, that period in which you decided to kind of pursue, that monk, those monk sensibilities. I guess apartment that you had?
Oh, boy, he did his research. So the apartment that I lived in, so I'm 17 years old, gone from Hawaii to Denver, Colorado, Hamburg, Germany, and at 17 years old, I'm working on my 4th language, Mandarin, Taipei, Taiwan. Having gone to a German school, and then, so in Hamburg, I went to a German school, and then English was mandatory, thank goodness. And then I had a choice of French or Latin, and I took French, and I don't practice so much, but I had that. Then I moved to Taiwan at 17, and My dad supported me, my mom and dad supported me for the first 3 months. And then Dad basically said, you want to live there and keep living there, you're on your own. So I started teaching German and English, conversational German and English, to make money to pay for my rent, and Kung Fu school, and Chinese school. So after those 3 payments, I had just enough money to, one, either take the bus and not eat, or eat and not take the bus and walk. So I learned how to survive eating every other day. My bedroom had no door. I was a roommate of this lovely young man, and I think his name was Peter. It's been so long ago. But there was no door. It was a big, I don't know, maybe 8-story apartment building, and the elevator didn't work. And I'm pretty sure it didn't work before I even moved in there. No hot water. I slept on a concrete linoleum floor. My bed was this straw mat, probably about that much, that thick when when it was rolled it down, so it just protected me from the cold. My pillow was a t-shirt with my underwear and socks shoved in. For decoration in this room, with no windows and no door, I used Scotch tape to put up a picture of my mom and one of my dad. And I had one bag. And we did have a telephone back then. It was the hardwire. One television. We had a refrigerator, I think, but I never had money to buy food to put in it anyway, so it didn't matter. And then no hot water, so cold water. So I washed my clothes there in the tub and then hung it up on a chair, and then bathed in cold water. And like I said, only ate every other day. And then the days that I ate, I walked for miles and miles to get to all these classes. And yet, one of the happiest times of my life. I mean, I think back on that. It's crazy because I knew I was hungry, but I was so busy learning Chinese, and someday I'm going to be a Shaolin monk. That was the idea, right? So, I practiced my martial arts and hardships. This is what the monks do. So I was just in that groove, and I always loved walking. And nowadays they call it walking meditation. I just loved walking because I saw people, and I loved listening to the languages, or just hearing people talk, and the street food, and the architecture. I grew up first 6 years were in Hawaii. My grandmother, I'm going all over the place, but my Japanese grandmother and my grandfather from Kentucky. So I'm going to throw all these things together. So
you're all good. You're good. I'm in.
Apparently, I carry the blue recessive gene, and my wife as well, because our middle boy has blue eyes. So Raymond Lloyd McVeigh comes through in his great-grandchild. But yeah, I loved my life in Taiwan. I was hungry, and sometimes I was lonely and cold because we had these typhoons. But I had a purpose. I was going to do my martial arts. I was going to go, and then talk about wisdom and spirituality, and that was going to be my life, And then typhoon season hits, and I'm inside my room, and I remember I had this awful thing of like boiling hot water, and then the cracks in the floor. Pastime would put it down where all the ants were, and I thought, that's so not Buddhist-like, But I had nothing else to do, but all these things happened, I don't know why I told you that, it's terrible, but I was burning the ants. So karma, anyway, it'll come back. But I was happy, hungry and lonely, and yet I still found some sort of joy, And I got to tell you, having the life as an actor, my time in Taiwan prepared me for that.
I was going to say that humility and preparation, absolutely.
No food and hunger, and then there's not one day on the set of Iron Chef America where we're doing 2 shows a day, which means that I get paid to eat 20 courses a day. And then I think back when I was in Taiwan eating every other day. It's just, life is so crazy.
Well, and speaking of that, and you briefly talked about the epiphany that you had about no longer pursuing being a monk. Can you talk about that segue? Can you talk about that segue getting into? Well, no, I was going to say the segue getting into acting. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I did my almost 6 months in Taiwan, and met a girl. Yes, my uncle did me a dirty, because I was in Taipei, and my uncle, he was the head of a hula and singing dance troupe, right? And he brings his troupe to Taichung and says, hey, Marco, why don't you come and visit me? So I take the train to Taichung on a weekend, and it was a daytime show, and I walk into this club, and I'm like in monk mode, you know. Didn't shave my eyebrows yet, but I would have. Because, qualifier, I never made it to the monastery. I was still working on getting my Chinese good enough, my martial arts good enough. And then once the Chinese was there, I would propose or try to enter a monastery. And then eventually, my romanticized view, make it to China to be a Shaolin monk, if they'd ever take me. So that was the idea. But I go down to Taichung, daytime show, I walk into the club, I hear this music, and the first thing I see, and I'm like, oh. And I'm pretty sure when I saw that, I said, okay, the monkhood thing, I can't do. I can't do. Cut to, months later, I'm back in Germany, and I head over heels for one of these dancers who lived back in Honolulu, my birthplace. So I made it back to Honolulu. Long story there, but you know, after going to school in Europe and then trying to be a monk, I was lost at what I was going to do. Made my way to California, where my mom had a martial arts school, and she said, okay, I think you should try community college, and when you take some classes, maybe you figure out what you're doing. Meanwhile, you can work and teach some classes for me. I'm teaching classes in San Francisco. On lunch break, two guys come up, and they ask me if I want to audition for a movie. And I said, no, thank you. And they said, why not? I said, I'm not an actor. And they said, you don't want to try? I said, of course not. And to me, because I say that because I knew how long it took, how much work and training it took to be decent at martial arts. Why would I have the audacity to think I could just audition for something? Because, you know, where I grew up, in Germany, there was craft, and people couldn't just jump into things. However, I'm so happy that we have crazy opportunities in America, because I told my mom about the story, and I didn't say I would audition. He said, would you at least take the number, and if you change your mind, call us. I said, okay. I tell my mom, who is one of my kung fu teachers, she says, it didn't work out as a monk. You know, life is a big roller coaster, ups and downs, twists and turns. Go audition. The worst that can happen is you do horrible and you get a no. It made sense to me. So I auditioned. 3 days later, they gave me the call, say I got the part. And first day on my set ever, without ever taking an acting class or even knowing what you do, the director, he says, okay, this girl, and she was beautiful, by the way, he says, this girl is going to play your girlfriend. I want you to walk over to her. She speaks some German. You can improvise in German and then start making out. Making out. And he says, yes. And I said, how? He goes, you don't know how to make out? You know, I was almost 19, and I said, well, so kiss? He goes, yeah. I'm like, okay. You know, don't even know her yet, right? Action, I walk over, we improvise some German, and I'm sure I was terrible because I'd never taken an improv class before. And then we start kissing. That part I really enjoyed, right? So he yells, cut. I keep kissing. He yells, cut again. I keep kissing. I don't know what cut means. He says, Mark, stop. I'm like, oh, that's what it means. So that was my introduction to acting. You know, besides the fun part, I thought, I love movies. I love storytelling. Okay, it's not exactly like being a monk, but I learned later that the Greeks were thought of holy people because Greek actors, because they could move people with their acting, inspire them, bring them to laughter or tears and sorrow and joy. And I thought, well, I don't know, it sounds interesting. You know, well, again, I loved movies and storytelling, and it touched my heart. Bruce Lee, watching him on the big screen, I'm still, I get emotional. So I thought it sounds like a noble profession, I'll give it a shot. And that's how I started.
Wow, awesome. So I have one last question, and then if you guys like, you guys can start lining up now where we can do our questions. I don't feel like enough is paid to this, but it's a fascinating part of your journey in that I understand that there is a project that you were a part of. I guess this was circa 86, Bioman. Where from what I understand, it preceded the phenomenon that many of us know as, Power Rangers and what that could have been. Do you ever think of like what that would have been had, things played out differently?
Yes. Well, way back then it was called Bioman. And there was Red Ranger and all these different colors, and I was Red Ranger, Victor
Right.
Lee. I think it was Victor Lee. And Haim Saban, Shuki Levy, the producers, they brought it to Las Vegas, the big television convention. And all of the buyers really liked it. But there was nothing like that out there, no precedence. And nobody wanted to take the chance on it. So they shelved the project, and then a year and a half later, they redid the pilot, named it Power Rangers, and by then, people were more open, and it blew up, and it is what it is now.
Craziness. Yes.
Hi. I have an only the strong question for you. There's so many things about that movie. Obviously, your performance and the stunts are just incredible. Another thing I really like about the movie is just all these colorful characters that it has. Even the football coach guy that says, "Oh, if it isn't Mr. Kappa, what's it?" at that low point in the movie.
That's pretty good.
Was there anyone that you particularly enjoyed acting with on that film?
Yes. So I recently, after so many years, we had a Only the Strong screening at my real life and on-screen capoeira teacher's school, Mestre Amen Santo, and we're still connected. And Stacy Travis showed up. She came by, and Ryan Bowman, and those two were lovely. And of course, Paco, I haven't seen him in a long time, but we talked on the phone maybe a month ago. He was wonderful. And then in the elevator just now, we saw Juliette Lewis and her father, Jeffrey Lewis, played Mr. Kerrigan.
Right.
And he was wonderful. So, I mean, really, that was my first lead. And I was so nervous, but really the cast, the crew, everybody was so welcoming and supportive. Other than my own nerves, everything was lovely.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. Do we have another one? And like I said, if you guys would like, you guys can start lining up. So that way, once the next person answers their question, the next one can go.
Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hi, my question is about the movie Double Dragon. The whole movie seemed very just big and theatrical and whimsical and stuff like that. So out of all those kind of stunts that you did, what was your favorite part of that whole production?
Oh, goodness.
Good question.
Yeah. You know, the sense of humor with Scotty Wolf and Alyssa Melandro and Robert Patrick. I mean, what a cast of characters. George Hamilton, Vanna White. I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
All these characters. You're like, whoa. And then, oh my goodness. What's his name? He has that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
He has this. I can't remember this actor's name, but he puts on this voice, and everything he does is with his voice. And then we had dinner together, and I didn't recognize him because he didn't put the fake voice on. You know? I'm sorry, I can't even remember his name, but he was wonderful. But in terms of stunts, oh goodness, wow. Well, this is not so crazy, but at one point, Scotty and I have to end up in the river, and only because everybody was telling us how dirty it was, and don't get any water in your mouth or in your eyes or in your nose, because, sewage. And I'm like, well, why are you throwing us in there then? So that was like, and then Scotty and I had to come up from the water and go, oh, wow, and we have all this dialogue, So that was kind of scary, because I thought, are my eyes going to be green? They're like, what, eye whites or eye greens tomorrow? But a little trivia for that. I remember the warm-up the day before, the day of shooting, before we started, Jeff Amato, our stunt coordinator, brought over a mini tramp and the big mats. And he said, hey, make sure you guys feel comfortable on the tramp and all the equipment. So I go over there and do a couple of jumps. And young guy and wanting to show off. So I hit it, go really high, do a nice front flip, kick out early, and then when I land, right, great landing, and then I walk, I'm like, and inside I go, I sprained my ankle. This is before they even blessed the show that nobody would get hurt and stuff, so I should have done it afterwards. But I wrapped my foot, I didn't tell anybody, and so for the first 2.5 weeks I was working with an injury, So
That adrenaline.
No,
That adrenaline. Yes, thank you for your question. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my question's on passion and purpose. So starting out from just like switching from wanting to be a monk to an actor and now having a full discography and years of experience, how did that look like through each season? And if you have any words of wisdom for us creatives? That's a really big one.
Are you an actor?
No, I do photography. So,
Photography? Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. Well, see, this is the thing. Great question. Thank you. I think, well, what's helped me in my life, my parents in martial arts, because in martial arts, you don't get anything unless you earn it. And I say that, for example, you can go skiing and be a green color skier, but take the lift up higher and go black diamond, so you haven't earned it, right? But in martial arts, if you want to get good at a 20-minute horse stance, which my mother made us do, right? Horse stance, meaning not one of the high horses, but parallel to the ground. 20 minutes. When I stopped taking classes with her, I told myself I'd be kind and never do a 20-minute horse stance again. And now I can barely do 1 minute. But this, 20 minutes, and she weighed about 115, 120 pounds. She'd come over, stand on our legs, kick us, hit us.
Wow.
All these things. Hit us.
Wow.
Just breathe, right? So martial arts and my parents taught me so much about being in the moment, being present. And over the career, starting off doing my first movie when I was 18 or 19, and then being 61 and being fortunate enough to still work. It's about working with what you have at that moment, And if you stay present, and not live with what you had, and not think that you have tomorrow, it keeps everything very, very special. And as an actor, where you have your lines and they're rehearsed, but if you practice so much that it's in there, and then you just breathe those words, and breathe that moment, it becomes real, And just even like right now, think about this. You don't have to, but if you looked around and you looked at everybody in here, there's a 99.9% chance, I would argue, that we will never be together again. Now, maybe that's not a big deal, but maybe it is. Maybe this is that one moment, And so I think it would be very tiresome to think about that every single moment, just to be, it'd be very taxing. But just to remind yourself that this is what counts right now, because we're going to make mistakes. I'm thinking, wow, I'm 61 years old and I've 43 different countries and I get to work with all these wonderful people and talented, and I'm still doing stupid mistakes I did when I was 25. So we're human. We breathe through it, and so we just try to be better moment by moment. So work with what you have, and take the present as a present.
Thank you.
Well said. Yes.
Hi there, Mark. As someone who has just dipped her toe into the most rudimentary way into martial arts, I kickbox, and my teacher sometimes throws in elements of Muay Thai and other styles into it. I was going to ask what your favorite thing is that you've taken from the disciplines you've studied, but you already went into a little bit of that last question. What's been the most surprising thing that you've taken from your martial arts training?
Well, one, fantastic that you're doing it.
Oh,
Thank you for your question, by the way. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. But in terms of martial arts and different styles, I love them all. And I think it's, it's like cuisine and foods. You just got to find what works for you, what's your flavor and taste. So great that you're doing it. You said you're doing kickboxing?
Kickboxing.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Shocked by how much I like it.
Oh, great, right?
Nothing feels like throwing that right cross, especially at my height.
Stay out of her way, everyone. I love it. I love it. I still do, I practice Muay Thai and boxing 5 days a week. And then when I can make it down to Mestre Amends, I do some capoeira. So I love that you're doing it, and I love that me, after all these years, I still get very passionate and excited about the martial arts and with learning with other people. I think what martial arts does for me is it opens up the mind, body, and spirit. It really opens you up. And some of my teachers have been older than me, and now that I'm older, a lot of them are younger than me. But isn't that wonderful to learn from the younger generation, but also be old enough to teach the younger generation? So it's a full cycle and circle. So I think martial arts has definitely kept me humble, because there's always somebody better, stronger, faster, blah, 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 It's great. But I think it's taught me, martial arts has taught me to be inspired and not jealous. Because when I was 13 years old, I remember standing in front of our mirror, and this was in Eppendorf. This is in Hamburg, Germany. And we do these things called hand combinations, just to get your hands moving. And somebody grabs you. And my dad says, oh, it's great when they grab you, because then they can't hit you. So then you can hit them. I'm like, okay. So we do this hand goes up, hits their arm, pop, and this one comes down, pop. And then you chop, pop. And then you growing, solar plexus, struck, bam. And I practice, pop, pop, pop. And I practice, pop, 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 pop. And that dawned on me, I'll never be as fast as my dad, right? When it hits, because I'll go pop, 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 and he goes blah, 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 right? And then you go, well, how do I feel about that, right? I'll never be as fast as my dad. And I'm like, I'm okay with that, okay. And if I'm okay with that, I can be inspired and not be all down on myself. Wow, that's fantastic. And so I've kind of taken that with me, because people are better all over the place. And so instead of feeling like this, you go, wow, this is great. So you have all these inspirations. That's one of the big ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you could say that wasn't fast. That was pretty fast. I don't know. That was pretty fast. That wasn't bad for not for that fast. If we didn't have another, I guess I'll ask a question while we have someone else come up. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Go for it.
You mentioned Bioman earlier before the questions opened up. So to connect it to that, I would love to ask about anything that you can share about your experience on the Legend of the White Dragon. I'm hoping that we'll be able to see that at some point, if and when it comes out. But I'd love to hear anything that you can share about what your role in the movie is, and what it was like acting with Jason.
Okay. Aaron and Sean Schernke, our directors, would be so upset with me if I told you what my role is.
Okay.
But
Yep.
you will see the movie. I've seen the movie. The movie's completed. It's locked, picture lock, and all that, so it's ready to go. It's just working on finding distribution now. Where is it going to go? Are we going to get a limited feature release, or is it going straight to streaming? So that's the issue right now. But the movie has been completed. And my experience, it's interesting, because my sons loved Power Rangers. And especially the oldest son, Makoa, he's almost 25, and was a huge Jason David Frank fan. So it was serendipitous when Jason reached out to me via DM on Instagram. And so we connected, and then he told me about his movie, and then Aaron and Sean invited me to the show to work with him. I found him to be just lovely. He was so kind, collaborative, hardworking, was so grateful to be doing that movie. And I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that he's not going to see his work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have time to do 2 more questions, 2 more rapid-fire questions. If we have anyone else, while we have that, if we have someone up, I do have a question for you. Is in talking about Brotherhood of the Wolf, I had to get this in. In talking about the film, how incredible it is, whether we're talking about the cinematography, which I know has some serendipity with, or not serendipity, but connection with the John Wick films. It came full circle in a way. Yes, please, please, yes.
So the connection, Brotherhood of the Wolf and John Wick 3, Dan Lauston, director of photography. He did Brotherhood of the Wolf, John Wick 3,
And 4, yeah.
And then, and 4, and 2 as well, I think, right?
Yes, 2, 3, and 4.
And then, recently, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and Shape of Water.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant director of photography. So the images, the color, all that is Dan Lauston's.
Did it make it easier to allow for a certain second hand when you guys were doing those sequences in terms of some of those action sequences that you had?
Well, you know, I find that, energy, it's all about energy. And so when you know somebody and you already have that, it made it a lot easier to jump into the John Wick world. Because before I started, so yes, Dan Lauston helped a lot. I'd never met Keanu before, Angelica Houston, everybody. I did know Lawrence Fishburne because he was a judge on Iron Chef America. He came over twice. So the first day on the set, I'm walking the set, and he goes, "Mr. Chairman!" I said, "We're not eating today, Lawrence." But it's the energy. If you have a connection with someone, it's very easy to plug back in. So seeing Dan on the show was wonderful. And that show, by the way, happened very quickly for me. I was originally supposed to do a cameo with Halle and Keanu in Morocco in October. But things happened where in June, and just one scene, I was going to do 2 scenes. And then in June, on a Sunday night, I get a text message from Chad Stahelski, the director. And he said, "Hey, Dacascos, give me a call on Monday. Give me a call tomorrow." I said, "Okay." I call him up. He says, "We're talking, this is Monday morning. Things have changed. We'd like you to come in and play, the actor for the lead bad guy is out, and Keanu and I would like to invite you." And I said, "I'll take it." And he said, "Good." I said, when do you need me there? Because I was in LA, he was in New York. He says, "Tonight." So I read the script. They made the deal. I got on a flight, midnight flight, got there Tuesday morning. Wednesday, I asked if I could shave my head. He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, Keanu, John Wick, has long hair and a beard. Contrasting, I'd like to go with my namesake, zero hair, zero body. I lost even more few pounds just to be skin and bone, just to have that contrast, zero. I just thought it felt nothing gratuitous." And he said, "You sure you want to shave your head?" "I do." "Hurry up before I change my mind. Go do it." So I shaved my head, and Thursday we started shooting. So the whole thing was this. So I think back to your question about with martial arts, you just got to go with that moment. I only read the script by the time I was shooting maybe 2 or 3 times, and I was trying to learn the lines and learn what choreography they gave me. But you just breathe, and be there. Because I'm telling you, the nerves were. I'm jumping into a world that I adore, and working with people that I think are wonderful. So the nerves are just like this. Just got to breathe. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to give you everything I have. That's all I can do. I'm not going to fake it. I'm just going to go there. And that's what got me through.
All right, excellent. All right, if we don't have any other questions, can we give a round of applause for Mark Dacascos?
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Like I said,
Thank you.